Okay. Hmm. This is the part that I forgot to do. Good afternoon and Good afternoon and welcome to Minding My Mind to a Healthier Me. I am Anissa Muhammad, your host of Minding My Mind, and I just would like to take a moment to thank Closing the Gap Broadcasting Network for blessing me with an opportunity to share my thoughts, my vision, and just promote How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Our health is truly our wealth. Again, this is What is Food, Part 2. And I am welcoming to the stage again Sister Shawntell Muhammad out of Chicago, Illinois. And we're so excited about this particular segment of Minding My Mind because we get to get our nerd on, so to speak, because we both get a little excited and a lot nerdy when it comes down to the science of food, the science of nutrition. Sister Shawntell, say hello to our listening audience.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, dear sister. Oh, yes, ma'am. So, sister, I was thinking in coming up with the process of coming up with this week's show, I thought about how what we eat, I'm seeing the significance of how to eat to live more and more each day. And I wanted to just share with you some of the things that I am learning. And that is, of course, How to Eat to Live. The name of the book is not How to Eat to Live. It's called From God in Person, Master Farad Muhammad by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, How to Eat to Live. And while we are more focused on eating the one meal a day every 24, 48, or 72 hours, I'm studying the science of what foods that the messenger of Allah, Elijah Muhammad, put in that book and why he specifies certain foods. So in this broadcast, we're going to talk a little bit about broccoli and cauliflower. We're going to talk about cabbage. We're going to talk about asparagus and Brussels sprouts. And I know that one thing that I found fascinating in my research is that broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage and asparagus all have the same phytochemicals. Isn't that fascinating? At least it is to me.
It is. Oh,
I
yes,
can't
ma'am, it is.
I can't talk to anybody else about this mostly but you because I know you get me and you
Oh,
understand me. Tell the audience what phytochemicals are.
phytochemicals basically are essential nutrients, enzymes that our body needs to repair ourselves, to transport oxygen through the blood, basically to keep us healthy.
Yes, ma'am. And one thing that I have utterly found fascinating and is the fact that research scientists don't always research to support the fact that phytochemicals even exist. They will say that this particular food has these particular chemical properties in it, but how they affect the human body or whether or not they're good for the human body, more research needs to be done. One of the reasons they say that is because in order for them to quote unquote prove it, then they would have to conduct quote unquote human experiments. But of course, because of the Nuremberg trials, they're not able to actually do that. However, they still at the same time, under the same token, take these phytochemicals, go in a lab, reproduce them in a synthetic form, and then put
Yes.
them and make vitamins and minerals and vitamin supplements and supplemental things for health. And they don't say the same thing. So I, in my own opinion, I think that that's just outright wrong because
Yes, they
it
mhm.
exists or not. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, they keep certain information from the masses so they can make money. So by them taking, like you said, the phytochemicals, put it into a pill form along with harmful chemicals, they can make money off of us. It's a $1 billion industry.
Yes, it is. It's like creating synthetic drugs in order for them to profit from it. Sent the bot, and they will, and I know that I find this very ludicrous and crazy
Mhm.
myself,
Mhm.
to convince the public and convince people that the body won't know the difference between that which is natural and that which is synthetic. I beg to differ on that, because our bodies are created in the image and the likeness of Almighty God, and it knows what's natural and what's not.
Yes.
And it's like your heart needs to have its own supply of blood. Your brain needs to have its own supply of natural glucose in order for it to function in the manner in which God created it. In synthetic combinations of things are
Mhm.
not necessarily good for the body. Does that make sense?
That does. Like for instance, most people they'll go to the store, whatever store they choose, purchase what they believe is vitamin C. When they turn the bottle around, it's ascorbic acid, which is made inside of a plant, a manufacturing plant. Your body is not going to absorb in a good way ascorbic acid the same way that it absorbs vitamin C from strawberries, from oranges, any citrus fruit,
Yes,
or
ma'am.
even broccoli, as we're speaking on broccoli, which has vitamin C.
It does.
So,
Red
yes,
bell peppers have vitamin C. Green bell peppers
red,
have vitamin C.
that's right.
And I know that it would serve us as a people, as humans, to eat that which is natural, because inside the brain are neurotransmitters. And neurotransmitters are basically responsible for certain things for the functioning of the body as a whole. For
Yes.
example, when you're talking about, and then also the neurotransmitters also respond or are contained in certain fruits and vegetables. For example, when you're talking about dopamine, you can get dopamine more from orange and yellow and red fruits and vegetables. And that's why I get nerdy, and that's why I love Allah's creation, because you get the same phytochemicals out of the same colors of
Hmm.
specific fruits and vegetables. Red, yellow, and orange are full of dopamine, and dopamine is like the neurotransmitter that helps us to understand the difference between pain and pleasure. It is used to help motivate us. It helps us to concentrate. It helps us to learn. So when we eat bananas and apples and oranges and carrots and strawberries, we're not just getting the vitamins from that or the minerals from that, but those same vitamins and minerals are helping to maintain the neurological part of our bodies, which is in the brain, so that we will be able to function as civilized, cultured, and refined human beings.
Exactly. Like for instance, if someone that may be feeling a little depressed, anxious, just feeling a little down or whatever,
Hmm.
the weather's getting nice. So if you take some strawberries, some bananas, oranges, whatever, and you go to a park and just sit at the park and let the sun hit you, and you're eating those citrus fruits, those bananas, you'll feel that your spirit is lifting.
Yes.
Just from being out in the sun, you're getting vitamins from the sun, and you're getting all the what you described from those citrus fruit, including the bananas. So
Oh, yes,
yes,
ma'am.
yes, ma'am. Yes,
And those types of foods raise the levels of the dopamine in the system, but says what decreases the levels of dopamine in our bodies are white potatoes, white bread, white rice, and overly processed foods, and actually trans fat. So everything that is being promoted in society that is contained in a box and passed off as food, I don't even
yes,
look at them as food products anymore. I look at it as pure poison. And all of these things that we mentioned that lowers these neurotransmitters levels, no matter what they are, because you have epinephrine and norepinephrine, you have melatonin and serotonin, you have dopamine. All of these things everything that we just mentioned, as far as the processed food, the white bread, the white potatoes, the white rice, it lowers the levels of those neurotransmitters. And aren't those the same foods that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad warned us and warned us about and told us to stay away from them?
He did, and they are starchy, heavy in starch, which leaches nothing but pure sugar into our system, and that sugar depletes us of, as what you just said, of the dopamine and other things.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know it may taste good, it does. However, we have to treat ourselves better. We have to love ourselves more.
Yes, ma'am. And we also have to stop taking what most doctors and society tells us at face value.
Exactly. Those
It's
doctors, they're not even taught about nutrition. So why are we even listening to them when it comes to health and nutrition or any other aspects of health? I understand there is a need for doctors in certain aspects. I understand that. But overall, we have to become our own doctors.
and sis, even, and I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mention this at some lecture or another. He said that even during slavery, we were healthier. Even though we ate the crumbs, even though we ate the worst of food, we
Yes,
were still healthier then than we are now, with the what they would consider technological and medical advancements in society. We're
yes,
still, the more information we get, the sicker we become.
yes.
And my one of my gravest concerns about what it is that we're eating, beloved, is our babies
Hmm.
and their embryonic and fetal development, because our new mothers, our young mothers, are not eating the right kinds of food for brain development. And the brain is the first system of the body that is actually calls into existence the other systems. And
Yes,
if the brain is not functioning properly, if it's not fed properly, then that's where the misdiagnoses of ADD and ADHD come from. That's why our children are not as cognitive as they could be or should be.
right.
And that's why they're not grasping certain concepts at the quote unquote benchmarks, and they play down certain things in the Black and Latino community. They will tell them, oh, your child, if the child is 2 years old, 2 or 3 years old, and they're not actually being able to formulate speech in a proper manner as they were when you were growing up or as they were when I was growing up, then the doctors are telling them, oh, they're right on track. They're hitting all their benchmarks. What benchmarks are they? A lot of the mothers don't even ask those types of questions. And
Right.
for example, they may say, in a physical exam on toddlers and on youngsters, the doctor may ask that child to stand up on one leg and put their arms out like this. You could train a monkey to do that. That doesn't necessarily, I'm sorry, that doesn't necessarily prove that that child is healthy. And nor do they run any metabolic tests on these children to
Mhm.
find out if they're vitamin and mineral deficient. And I think that if they did that, then they will be able to catch a lot of illnesses, before onset. They will be able to help the mothers to correct it, because while they're little, you can reverse and correct with the right types of food. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe because and I'm not even going to put an age on it because it's throughout generations. The knowledge of proper health is just not there. So with just with mothers across the board, if we look at what the mother eats,
Hmm.
that's what the child is eating. So you could pretty much estimate that that child, even the mother, is deficient in certain nutrients and enzymes, and just try your best. to educate the mom or even dad sometimes on proper nutrition. And not just proper nutrition, but the importance of limiting screen time and not introducing screen time so early. That
Screen time,
actually
you mean
devices,
okay.
devices, because studies have shown those devices shrinking the child's brain, actually halting it because you're not using any cognitive skills. You're not writing, you're not uh, turning pages, reading, you're not coloring, you're not going outside running around. So all these things is it, health is holistic.
Yes, ma'am. And dear sister, it's like to speak on or elaborate further on what you just stated with regard to the screen time. When I was working in the clinic, and I'm not going to name the facility, I would actually walk past mothers waiting to see their doctor, and they would have infants in a stroller propped
Hmm.
up with some sort of electronic device in front of them. And these babies can barely sit up straight. They're like 2 and 3 months old. But you're
Yes,
giving them that because you have found that that will keep them quiet.
exactly.
And what
Instead
they
of
need to
them
keep quiet is
craving,
to feel the mother next to them. And that will
yes,
give that child more comfort than any screen possibly could.
and even that skin to skin contact, or
Hmm.
what they call kangaroo, um, that actually activates certain vitamins and enzymes inside the baby. So, like when you go into a NICU, especially for premature babies,
Hmm.
they are heavy on skin to skin. That helps the growth of the child. That builds the child's immune system. Just you holding the child and that child getting that skin to skin.
Pleasure, dopamine, right?
That's right. That's
Increasing.
right.
And
Goes back to
if I'm not
dopamine.
mistaken,
Yes.
let me look at my notes here because it's either is serotonin. Serotonin levels are raised and it helps a person to feel comfort.
Yes.
And I never knew that skin to skin contact as far as raising certain levels of their neurotransmitters. I didn't know that. And again, this is a study that I am just getting into because of my working towards getting my certification as a nutritionist, because that's more important to me than
Mm-hmm.
anything, because I'm looking at out here in Los Angeles. When I look at 20 mothers that are now like maybe late teens, early to mid 20s in the hood, so to speak, I'm
Yes.
looking at third and fourth and maybe fifth generation crack addict babies. And I'm saying that because I know what I'm looking at.
Right.
A lot of these youngsters were reared by their grandparents whose
Mhm.
own children may have been in prison or in jail due to in the selling of drugs. And
Right.
because at that time they were not giving a lot of I'm just going to say guardians
Mm-hmm.
any funding to help with the rearing of their grandchildren or their nieces and their nephews because of the
Right.
prison time. So they had to make do with what they had available as far as funds and purchasing food. So you're looking at a generation of children, even if they were still with their parents, because the drug was so popular and so much needed, they were using and giving their children, feeding them hot dogs and top ramen a lot,
Mm-hmm.
giving them sugar-filled cereals because it was cheaper to purchase. And
Yes.
now we're looking at the biochemistry of what happened to them when they are the food, because of the food that they were eating in conjunction with the trauma that they were experiencing, because they were no longer with their parents and they're forced into an environment either in foster care or with their family members that
Yes.
may or may not have been the most healthy psychologically, emotionally, or spiritually for that matter. And then they grew up eating the food that they were given, thinking that that was food. And then with now, at least you could get back then, you could get a hamburger or something like that made in the house, right? With some ground beef.
Right.
They're not
Yep.
even getting that now. They're eating chemicalized foods from fast food restaurants, which are not healthy. Buns are not what they used to be. The meat
Right.
is not what they used to be. And as Brother Minister Nuri has pointed out to us, the number of chemicals that are in particular fast food restaurants, it's like you're supposed to have a piece of chicken on a piece of bread, and what you're eating is 55 chemicals,
Yes. And
right?
have you seen the ingredients for French fries? Oh my gosh. I thought French fries was just
Potatoes
potatoes.
fried in
No.
grease, right?
It's a bunch of chemicals. And also the potatoes is GMO, genetically modified organism.
Mhm.
So we have to take all that into account. And also, like you said, the fast food. But okay, let's take into consideration those that do cook at home. What is the quality of ingredients that people are using for their home cooked meals? You got this meat glue. So you in the store and you're like, okay, I only have this amount of money, so I'm gonna buy the cheapest that I can afford. So you buy this thing that looks like meat, but I mean it is meat, but it's the scraps that they literally glue together, and you can buy it off of Amazon. It's meat glue. And
I'm sorry, what?
yeah. Hmm.
Talk a little bit more about the meat glue for those who are listening and don't know, understand, or know anything about it. Talk to us like we six,
Okay.
so
Okay.
that we can understand it.
Okay, so let's just say, your mom's in the middle of the afternoon, you're doing some grocery shopping for your family, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna buy this some chicken, or I'm gonna
Mhm.
buy some fish, um, some beef, whatever, any type of meat that you can think of. It looks like a steak, or it looks like a chicken thigh. You purchase it and you go home and fry it up. However, what you just purchased are scraps that the what is that called? The what they couldn't sell or whatnot, and the leftovers from the restaurant and from the butcher. They literally take this glue. It's 100% chemical. They take this glue and they glue it together, and
And
now
shape
you
it
have
and make it look like a
and it
chicken
look
thigh.
they have videos where trained chefs that they've been in this industry for decades. At first glance, they were even fooled.
Wow. We're
And
gonna have
then
to post up some of those videos for the next show that we do.
yes, ma'am. And then like the salmon, those
Hmm.
of you that eat salmon, it looks pink in the store. That's just to, appeal the eye. That's not the actual color of salmon. That's food dye. That's dye.
You mean the farm raised or
Yes,
those that
ma'am.
are quote unquote wild caught?
Farm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Because I stay away from that. And I used to like snapper, red snapper, but then they recategorized it and they call it rockfish. And because that was something foreign to me, I don't even eat it. It looked like snapper, but is it really snapper? So because I'm
Why are
not
they calling
sure,
it that now?
the and because I don't know the difference, I
Hmm.
just don't eat it anymore.
And so now, if you're gonna eat any type of meat, any type, and when I say meat, I'm including fish because fish is meat. You may want to call that company and ask them, do they use meat glue? Do they dye their meat to make it look appealing? Because they don't have to put it on the label. It does not have to be included on the ingredient label. It just and then like if you go to a restaurant and you order some type of steak or any type of meat. And to cut corners, because restaurants, they all about cutting corners. They're about saving that money. They use meat glue. That's a common practice in restaurants.
I am gonna have to look that up.
But they are charging you the same amount as if it was the actual piece of meat. But
So that
we'll
means
put scraps together.
the way that's processing in my brain is, so is that what's going on with the phenomenon called boneless this and boneless that?
See, that's just like seedless. So if it naturally come with seeds, don't eat it. Now, if it naturally come with a bone, don't eat it.
Phew. We really got to eat to live. We really don't have a choice. And I know that I was just speaking with someone yesterday when she was talking about the colon, and I explained to her that it is in the small intestine that
Mhm.
after you swallow the food and the food is processed in the stomach, it goes directly to the small intestine, and that is where all of the nutrients and vitamins and minerals are distributed throughout the rest of the body. It goes from the small intestine throughout the body via the blood, that is. But after the waste is the leftover waste, be it urine or feces, it goes into the kidneys and also into the large intestine to be expelled from the body. And I know that if we practice how to eat to live in the manner in which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching us, just like he said, even, and this is just my belief, even if it's something that's genetically modified and we eat once every 48 hours or once every 72 hours, even the toxins from that can be expelled from the body, and it
Yes.
won't cause as much harm as if you were eating GMO foods 3-4 times a day on top of the snacks that we're eating between these meals. Does that make sense? Does
Yeah,
that make
yeah. And also, a lot of people, again, here we go with the screen time. These devices, most people are sedentary. We don't move. So you can eat one meal a day. You can eat one meal every 48 hours, 72 hours, but you have to be active. You can't just sit down, just sit around. Okay, you go from the car to the store, you go from the car to here. We drive everywhere. We're sedentary. When you said at the beginning of the show, the minister said that the slaves were more healthier. Yes, they worked. They was out there working. They
hard
was in the
work?
sun.
Yes,
Right. They was out in the sun. They was moving. They was basically on one meal a day. Um, so we you can't just like, okay, I'm eating one meal a day and just sit down.
yes,
You
ma'am.
we can't do that. We have to move.
And that's very, very true. And this is, I used to hear this quote unquote joke when I first came to Los Angeles, and I would hear people talking about, I got my exercise for the day. I ran to make sure I caught the bus. And I
See?
used to see people booking down the street, but nowadays with
Right.
Uber and Lyft,
See?
people,
Right.
they don't
Right.
even do that anymore. You
Right.
know, and it's just, everything is just so, all of the little pieces to the puzzle come together, especially when you're talking about food and how
Yes.
we can keep ourselves healthy. And by healthy, I mean that your vitamin and mineral levels are on point.
Yes.
It may not be perfect, but they're on point.
Right.
That you can think and function with psychological and emotional balance because it's all connected to the food. And I
Yes.
know that over the last 100 years, there's been a great deal of nutrient deficiencies or nutrient depletion from the soils because, as the messenger teaches us in How to Eat to Live, this is a highly commercialized world that we're living in, even more so now than it was when those books were published in 1965 and 1972, respectively. And It's just awful because and then to make it even worse or to add insult to injury, you
Hmm.
now have farmers being forced to remove animals from off their farms if they want government subsidies to keep existing, and they only could grow what it is that they're asked to grow or whatever it is, because that's just how grants work.
That's right.
You get a
Right.
grant, you get X amount of dollars based on these particular dynamics or parameters, and you have to meet those benchmarks, or you will no longer be able to get the grant. And the farmers are at their wits' end. In India, says there are even some farmers that are committing suicide.
I was just getting ready to say that. I was actually thinking of America. The
Hmm.
suicide rate amongst farmers is exceptionally high. A lot of people don't know that, but a lot of farmers, black, white, Mexican, don't matter the color. The
Hmm.
suicide rate is high. That's their livelihood. Their livelihood has basically been taken away. And I know I addressed this last time, but that industrial age, it was like a double-edged sword. That industrial age came, and once the industrial age came, our health across the nation dramatically declined. Dramatically. We have air pollution, water pollution. It's like, how do you combat this air and water? So you talked about make sure we're maintaining a certain amount of minerals and enzymes. We have to make sure we maintain the health of our kidneys, the health of our liver. Those are our two main organs that detoxes these toxins out of our bodies. So if those two organs are not at optimum health, nothing else is optimum within ourselves.
And that's very true, because I know that, hold on one second, I want to turn to my notes here.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know that quite a few of these particular phytochemicals helps to detoxify. They activate enzymes in the
Hmm.
liver to help with the detoxification process that the liver does, in order to rid our bodies of those things that are not good for it. And the kidneys basically do the same thing. And as far as the excretion of certain byproducts of bad food, byproducts of medications,
Yes,
you know, and when you have a compromised liver, such as if you happen to have a problem with alcohol, you have a compromised liver. If you're eating too many fast foods and foods that are not good for you, you have a compromised liver. There are
hmm,
people walking around here with what they call non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That
yes,
comes from eating junk food, especially refined sugar.
yes,
You have a compromised liver. You have non-alcoholic fatty disease. And if you have not been diagnosed, go and find out, because a lot of times it sneaks up on you
yes,
and you don't
yes.
even know you have it.
And I know I'm not trying to offend anyone in the South, but from what my understanding, that Southern cooking,
Hmm.
they really adore fried food. Fried food is an enemy to your liver. Fried food is an enemy to kidneys. Fried food is an enemy to our health, period. And so when we eat an abundance of fried food, we are literally killing our kidneys. We're literally killing our livers. And I've held a liver of a 35-year-old man, and he didn't drink alcohol. His came on from, as a medical examiner told me, from eating fried food, eating fast
Wow.
food. And we were
Yes.
literally bouncing that liver on the table. That's how leathery it was.
Get out. Really? Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Mhm. And I held a heart of a 30-year-old man. The heart was enlarged, covered in fat. Again, It's all nutrition based. So, you know, things may quote unquote taste good, but we have to train our palates to like what's healthy. And just because something is healthy does not mean that it has to be nasty. Because because I'm not eating whole wheat pasta. I'm not doing that. That stuff to me
I
is
see what you're
disgusting.
saying. It's
But
you're eating, you're thinking that you're eating something healthy when in actuality you're not. Just
right,
because it has wheat doesn't mean that it's healthy for you. It's
exactly.
still made the exact same way: oil, flour, and eggs, and it's not. The messenger said it's not. It's processed, and
Exactly.
It's not even cooked all the way. It's like
Right.
only thing they do, they make it, they mold it, they run it through something that cut it, and then you boil it,
Hmm.
and that's why they call it pasta, because in your colon it goes back to its pasty state, and that's why they call cakes, cookies, and pies pastries. That's why
Yes.
they call it pasta, because it's nothing but paste, because that's what flour does, and it clogs up your arteries.
Yes, ma'am. 100% gluten, and that's sugar. So
Nowadays they putting gluten free on everything. Things that don't even have, that ordinarily does not even have gluten in it. And they do that as a marketing strategy,
it's
which I
market.
think is disgraceful.
That's criminal, and it's oh, here we go with the gluten free stuff. Oh my gosh! First of all, the gluten free stuff it is disgusting, and it's full of sugar. If you read the ingredients, it's tapioca, it's rice flour, tapioca flour, rice flour. Both of those are sugars. Coconut oil flour, sugar, and I'm like,
So they
this stuff.
dehydrate practically anything, pulverize it into a powder, and call it flour.
Mhm. You can basically get Spanish pasta. You can get bean flour. You can get. I mean, these people, if they believe that they can make $1 from it, they're gonna do it, and they are doing it.
Yes, but they're making cauliflower pizza crust,
Yeah, I'm not playing with that. Yeah,
because
things like that I don't do. I don't do stuff like that.
but it's in the frozen food section next to the other
It is.
to the other
Yes.
frozen
Yes.
pizza products, right? And people really actually think, because, and who said it was real cauliflower?
ex- Exactly.
You
And so
know,
my thing is, if you are you're new to vegetarianism, I can see you gravitating towards these type of products as a transition. But however, just know that today you don't have to do that. You can make black bean burgers from actual black beans, and that tastes good. Navy bean burgers from actual navy beans. It's other ways than eating highly processed. I don't. It's quote unquote food. These things are not food.
yes, ma'am. Sis, and again, that takes us right back to How to Eat to Live, books 1 and 2, and some of the phytochemicals that are in the foods that we are talking about, the broccoli, the cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage and asparagus, they have phytochemicals like flavonoids. And
Yes.
flavonoids are antioxidants. And for those of you who do not know what that is, if you remember how the Pac-Man game worked back in the 80s, you had this little yellow head going around and is munching and eating up these little circles. That's the phagocytosis process of how your body actually gets rid of things that it does not need. And
Mm.
um, oxidation happens in the blood, and it happens in your arteries and in your veins and in other parts of your bodies, and it's nothing but rust. Just think of it this way: you bite out of an apple, you leave it on the counter, you come back, in the area where you bit out of, the white part or the meat of the apple is starting to turn brown. That's what oxidation is. So a lot of the flavonoids and other um phytochemicals, they're antioxidants, because if that rust is allowed to build up,
Mm-hmm.
in and around your vital organs or in your bloodstream, that's how you get sick. That's how your arteries get clogged. It's a lot of things. And actually, free radicals is what they're called, causes cancer.
Yes.
So flavonoids work as antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, antivirals, and anti-cancer mechanisms. And if you go and look at the more pricey supplements that you can get, that will tell you that this is antiviral or anti-inflammatory antioxidant, then you will be able to learn that they've actually gone and taken the chemical blessings that God put in certain plants, and they've gone into a lab and they
Mm-hmm.
recreated it synthetically for you to take, and it's going to cause the same damage as if you had not taken any real supplementation from fresh fruits and vegetables as a whole. When you're talking about beta carotene, it converts itself into vitamin A, and I
Yes.
know that according to a lot of research that is out there, that 90% of the people in this country are vitamin A deficient, vitamin C deficient, vitamin B12 deficient, and also vitamin E deficient. And that's telling me that we're not eating the right kind of foods for the nutrients that are in them. And I know that beta carotene is found mostly, and I know that a lot of Black people will still go and eat those sweet potatoes because beta carotene is in it, because it's orange. And yes, it is. But the messenger said that sweet potatoes / yams are too starchy, and they're not, and our bodies do not digest them well. So again, just because something is grown out of the ground does not necessarily mean that it's fit for
Yes.
human consumption. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. And
Yes, ma'am.
our bodies let us know what we are lacking. Like
Mm-hmm.
for instance, if you're craving, and then I'm gonna need you to help me out with this because I forgot all of them. If we're craving sugar,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, if I remember correctly, we're low in zinc. And
Yeah.
if we're craving meat, we're low in protein. So our bodies will let us know. And that doesn't mean that you got to go and get meat. You can get protein from navy beans. You get
Yes,
protein, again, broccoli. Broccoli has protein.
it does. But we
So
must also caution ourselves and caution our listeners that how they say it in Domino's, all money ain't good money.
that's right.
So you can get protein. Now they're pushing soybean as a source of protein. And maybe it does have protein, but it does not fit for humans to eat it, right?
That's
Because I know that a lot of herds of animals eat that bean for their own well-being,
hmm
right? And then with the modification of the soybean, putting swine protein and altering that natural bean called the soybean, they're making it even worse. They call it piggy soy now. And that's not, I wouldn't eat that, because soybean, the product of soybean, the byproduct rather, pardon me, it causes cancer.
hmm
And because soybean is one of the top crops that is genetically modified, that makes it even worse. So in truth, we really don't know what we're eating. And I know that another one of the phytochemicals that is in the vegetables that we're discussing right now are indoles, and indoles are cancer prevention.
Yes.
There, I mean, so we have such a plethora and an abundance by God's grace of certain fruits and vegetables that we can eat and grow ourselves naturally or get from a natural source, like a farmer's market, for
Yes.
example. We
Yes.
can eat these things to prevent cancer, to prevent anti-inflammatory conditions. Um, I think I'm pronouncing this properly. Carotenoids,
Yes, ma'am.
carotenoids, yellow, red, orange fruits and vegetables. and those are antioxidants as well. And those
Yes,
that have the carotenoids are also have beta carotene in them, because they both are fall under the same color category. Our diet, the way that God gave it to us, is color coded. So that's why in our MGT class, we're taught to not just cook the right food in the nutrition, the best way possible to get the most nutrition out of it. We're also taught to make it visually appealing.
yes, ma'am. Yes,
So to
ma'am.
have different colors on your plate with different textures, it encourages your family to eat well.
That's right. And I'm glad you emphasized cancer, because Black people, we are leading in cancer of all the cancers.
Mhm.
And okay, if you're a Black man, you may want to eat heirloom tomatoes at least once a week, raw heirloom tomatoes put in your salad, because that has been proven by studies to prevent prostate cancer.
Mhm.
And again, Black men are number one with prostate cancer. So,
Why do you think that is, outside of the diet? Because we
out,
gotta one day we gotta talk about it. It might we might as well open up that avenue today, ma'am.
I believe it's stress. We're under a tremendous amount of stress.
Mhm.
Stress that will kill you in all sorts of ways. Just being Black in America, especially being a Black man in America, that's stress.
It is.
And that
And
that
the chemical process in the brain
yep,
that occurs as a result of stress. Your neurotransmitters are all over the place. And when you're stressed, generally you don't eat the right types of food because
that's
you're
right.
constantly on the go trying to support your family and
Mm-hmm.
to do the best by yourself and by your family. But
Yes,
also, sister, one of the contributing factors to poor health among our the male population of the original people in this country is that they don't practice preventive medicine enough.
true.
They put off till they procrastinate when it comes down to their health. They don't like doctors. And I know that when I worked at a clinic, when I would ask my male patients, why did you wait so long? Or, okay, so you missed the last 6 appointments. And it's like, well, I get nervous because I think that it's going to be more bad news and I don't want to hear the bad news. So if you are doing what your nurse is advising, what your clinician is advising, why do you think it's going to be more bad news? A lot of our men are relatively single, and the ones that they have, the spouses or the women in their lives, don't know how to eat to live. They don't know how to cook food where there's still life in it when you eat it. And
Yes,
because everybody's on the go, 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 they buy things out of boxes for the sake of convenience. There's nothing convenient about ending up for 6 or 7 hours laying in a hallway in the emergency room waiting to be seen. There's nothing convenient about death. There's nothing convenient about not, leaving this planet earlier than God intended, in a matter of speaking. Because when he put you here, he intended for you to live a good life, but you chose to go contrary to what is logical with regard to eating the right types of food. Then it's inconvenient because you're leaving your family without the money to bury you.
yeah,
A lot of them don't have medical insurance. And even if they need to go to the hospital by way of ambulance, they won't, because I don't want to have to pay the ambulance bill.
yeah.
So I've heard some strange, strange reasons, and then for me, because of what I see in my work,
Mhm.
and what I have experienced up close and personal with male members of my family, with the clients that I work with patients that I've worked with. And forgive me, listening audience, if I sound a little bit harsh, but there's no excuse. Even if you're not practicing one meal a day and you're eating 3 times a day, you don't have to eat 3 times at a fast food restaurant. You don't have to eat every single meal filled with pancakes and eggs and sausage and biscuits and sitting down and that's your breakfast. You're eating all of this because this fast food restaurant is offering that to you for $2.99. And they do.
Yeah,
So in
they
a
do.
sense, that's why gluttony is one of the 7 deadly sins.
That's
Because
true.
that's what that is. You're being a glutton. We have to learn to take responsibility for our health, take responsibility and own your shortcomings
Yes.
and be humble enough to say and to think, I could do better.
Mhm.
So the question is, do you want to live or do you want to die? Because with that smart device that you have in your hand that you paid $1,000 for, right? You can do some smart research because it's enough people out here that will fit your, I'm going to say, palate as far
Yeah,
as how you desire to receive your information, whether it's a 2-hour lecture or a 2-minute TikTok reel.
that's
It's
right.
enough information out here that can point you in the right direction in order for you to be able to reverse the process of death that's happening in your body. Does
Yes,
that make sense?
that does. And a lot of black men, well, black people in general, but black men don't go and get checked out until the very last minute. It's understandably, I know the reasons or some of the reasons. They're mistreated, you're not heard, they don't, you rushed up out of there. Um, it's very disrespectful. And then you get hit with this huge bill. So what we can do, you can go into Chinatown and go talk to those Chinese herbalists and those Chinese um it's all kind of natural healing in Chinatown. And they will take cash if you don't have health insurance. They will take cash. And so that's one alternative. And if you're a female, you can make an appointment with someone that does thermography. They're usually private practices. It's called thermography. They use heat to detect cancer in your body. Right now,
Yes,
they don't
they
have
do.
the technology.
I've
Yeah.
had one of those.
Okay. How
They're
did you like?
very I liked it. I mean, it was a different type of process, but it did not it did had no radiation
Mm-hmm.
involved in it. It used the Chinese or the ancient Asian type of yin and yang, negative and positive, heat and cold
Yes.
um philosophy.
Yes.
And it was beneficial to me, very beneficial. And I was so glad that I was introduced to it.
Yes. See, there you go. You have Sister Anissa Muhammad giving you a
Mhm.
personal testimony on thermography. That's
It
right. It's
does work. It may take a little bit longer, but it's not as embarrassing or
not as
I
invasive.
don't know then I don't know another word for what I'm trying to say, but I know that if you know the process of what mammograms, what it does, what we have to do for those,
Right.
it's not like that at all, and you will be happy that you went and got that done.
Yes, ma'am. And also like what I was saying about the Chinese therapies, they have
Mhm.
iridologists, so want to look in your pupils to tell you what's going on inside of you. There's a plethora of ways to find out what's going on within yourself. With you can go around the American Medical Association. You can go around that. You don't have to be
Yes.
disrespected and then be expected to pay thousands of dollars. Um, so like Sister Anissa mentioned, we pay all this money for these phones, so let's put it to good use.
I'm sorry, I just cannot wrap my head around spending $1,000 for a phone. It's not just a phone. You can use it to do research on. I type Word documents and you need it in this thing. No, I don't. No, I don't. I just can't wrap my mind around that because that's like out here, that's half your rent,
Hmm.
right? That's 1/3 of a mortgage.
Out
You
there, you
know,
talk about Chicago, well, basically everywhere now. It's expensive everywhere. So, and again, going into Chinatown, that'd be maybe more cost effective for most of us, especially those of us without health insurance. So there's ways we can take care of ourselves and to use the medical association as a very last resort. So again, we just have to prioritize, you know, what's more important, that $400, what they call that? I don't want to say that wig, $400 wig,
the
them
weave.
lashes, yeah, them lashes, that makeup, whatever you all are into, which one, that money could be going towards organic food. It could be going towards, um, what's that called? The food supplements. So, I mean, you could be taking a yoga. I mean, all kind of stuff to heal yourself and to um, prevent you from need healing of something.
Yes,
So,
ma'am. And in my Mind in the Mind ebook, I write in there that if you want to know what to do, what the first step is, and changing your diet, I challenge the reader or the purchaser of that ebook. Go to your cabinet, your cupboards, your refrigerator, your freezer, and remove everything that's in a box or if everything that's packaged, such as, frozen this, frozen that, and all of that, because nowadays you can actually buy things cheaper fresh than you can frozen. And I know that I find it criminal that a lot of fast food restaurants are selling the type, not just the types of food, but it's the prices that are appealing to the poor.
yeah.
I have a family, hypothetically, I have a family of 6 people, and I can buy this big burger, the order of fries, the soda, and maybe a dessert. I can get all of that for $3.99. But at the same time, if you got 6 children and 1 or 2 adults, you can take that $3 to $4 or even $5 meals, and you can take that to the grocery store and buy something that you all can eat
Hmm.
twice.
Yeah.
You can prepare 2 meals with that if you know how to shop and if you know how to budget. And I encourage mothers to make sure that they are doing all that they can to learn how to budget their money. And I know that things are getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and food is only going up and up and up. And sometimes people now have to make a choice between whether they're going to pay their utility bills or buy food.
Yeah.
And according to what we were just looking at in our chat room, dear sister, utility bills are getting ready to go up because now they're being forced to upgrade their systems to where they have carbon purifiers in them.
Yep. That's across the nation. You talk about for the water systems, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
They saying to remove the forever chemicals. So all of us across the nation about to be hit with a higher water bill. So even if you rent, even so people in apartments like, well, that have nothing to do with me. I don't own that. Yes, it
Yes, it
does.
does. It
So if
does.
your landlord have to go up and in their their water bill, that means they're gonna have to go up in your rent.
Out here in California, the property owners have, I'm going to say, an agreement, for lack of a better word, where they have with the rent control board for the city of Los Angeles that the tenants have to pay a portion of the water that they use. A portion, we have to pay for sewage, we have to pay for water, and we have to pay for trash pickup. And all of that is included in the
A
cost of
tenant?
our rent. Yes,
Wow. I never heard of that. This is an apartment or a house. If you rent a house?
apartment.
Oh wow.
Yes. And the water can fluctuate from month to month,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and you have no choice. You either gonna pay it or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
I think I'm in the process of trying of scouting around and getting more information about water filtration systems, because even water out of a store is not as healthy as it could be because it's being packaged in plastic.
Yes.
They can call it PET, they can call it BHA free or whatever they want to call it. It's still not as healthy as something that came directly out of a stream. So, and we had talked about this last time, where if you're living in an apartment building, or God forbid you living in the projects, those buildings are old. Even the houses that people own are old.
Yes.
And they're not, when from tenant to tenant, from homeowner to homeowner, a lot of people are not thinking about looking at the plumbing system that's in their houses, and it could be from in the 1950s.
Correct.
They don't replace it. And so so you have lead coming into your home and through your tap, etc. Well, I cook with bottled water, but you still got plastic, and your body is absorbing it,
Yes.
because
Yes.
water picks up the chemical residue from those microplastics and from those plastic. It does. And
Mm-hmm.
I can bear witness to that, because I had lived plastic in my liver, and I had to work diligently to get rid of it. So it's, plastic, mercury, formaldehyde, all kinds of stuff. So even when you think you're eating to live, and you are,
Yes.
there are still some things that you have no control over
Right.
whatsoever, excuse me. So you have to fight like the Dickens to stay alive today
That's
in
right.
this society.
Yes. That's what I was talking about, the air pollution. I mean, it's so crazy, being, like I said, being black in America. Stressing is stress. 100% stress. You got the trains coming through our community, air pollution. You got freeways throughout communities, air pollution. And what can we do about it? It's like, you have a whole region in the South that's called Cancer Valley,
Really?
because up and down that whole entire region, just about everyone has cancer, or several members from each household has died from cancer.
And
It's
what do they say, or what do they think is the cause of it?
the factories that's in these communities. All the factories are positioned right in the middle of the black neighborhoods.
So in other words, it was basically industrial, and they had these plants. So it's kind of like a Camp Lejeune thing down there in and around that area. And when people started building homes and houses and places to live, they didn't change a whole lot, sound like to me, says.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Hmm.
We have, and when you're talking about the pollution, what's in the air actually is what goes up comes down,
Yes.
and it gets in the soil, it gets in and on the food, whether they be pesticides, and or just something, oil residue from planes and petroleum, from airplanes, from
Hmm.
trains, from automobiles, from everywhere. So listening to ourselves talk, I'm thinking, I'm counting my blessings that I'm still alive. Praise be to Allah.
Right. That's right.
Really, I'm saying it in a jovial manner, But I'm
Yeah,
very serious.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm very serious, dear sister. Sister, it's been a blessing to have you back on our show. We're going to pick up probably more than likely in about 2 weeks discussion, but we're going to talk more about the neurotransmitters and the brightly colored foods, especially now that we're entering into summer.
Yes.
Because I love the summer because of the variety of the fruit that they have.
Hmm.
The melons and the different types of just it's just so colorful to me, and to have all of that, and again, it's troubling to me about the terminator seeds and seedless fruits and vegetables, and
Yes.
some of this produce, the vitamins that they have, it's hard to find them in other places. It's hard to find grapes out here with seeds.
Yeah.
They're out here, but you have to go on a mad manhunt to find them.
I
And
don't eat watermelon, but I heard the same thing about watermelon.
it is. It is. Out here in LA, you are used to could find trucks where people actually have watermelons, and they come from Texas and they drive them in here, and they were so sweet and juicy with seeds. You don't see
Mhm.
those trucks no more because they don't have watermelon with seed in them. And I've heard one gentleman that used to sell them here on one was on Central Avenue and another one was on Crenshaw. He said, because it's not the same. And I'm not selling it if it's not, people
That's
just
right.
have work ethics a lot. So I want to talk about those summer fruits that we can
Yes.
actually look forward to. And I also want to share real quick now that I brought this up. A lot of times when we see fruit and it don't have a flavor in it, a lot of times that fruit is being imported from another country, and they have to pick it right before it's ripe, because if they pick it when it's ripe, by the time it gets here, it will not be any good anymore.
Right. That's right.
So we eat food, sister, that primarily are picked as juvenile, like them little baby carrots.
Yes.
That's a juvenile vegetable, meaning that you pick it before it's even had an opportunity to grow to adulthood, so that
Right.
the people or whoever's eating it can gain the benefits of all of the vegetables and the nutrients, should I say, the nutrients and vitamins that's in that carrot.
Right.
And that's why in the Mediterranean Sea to this day, they do not have the seafood in it that they used to have, because they get it while it's juvenile and they kill it and they eat it, which means that they don't get a chance to grow up and reproduce. Does that
Right.
sound familiar, sis?
Uh-huh.
I'm
These
I'm
people,
just I'm
these
just saying,
people, they just predatory all around. They just
predatory, and they commercialize on things, and that's
That's
why
right.
the messenger said the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to grow our own food.
That's right. That's
So
right.
we must grow our own food. We must learn how to farm. Farming may be something that might be genetically in our DNA to reject over centuries of the energy from slavery,
Hmm.
but you're going to have to eat something, and it's better to eat something that you grow than to eat something that you don't know where it came from, like that meat glue you were talking about earlier.
I mean, this can go on. I mean, this is ridiculous. I just got one more thing to say. We have to really get serious about our health. Like, I don't know, a few months ago, could have been a year ago, but um, I think it was Raisin Bran, some cereal company, Kellogg's. The guy from Kellogg's was talking about people who couldn't, there's a lot of people was talking about the price of food. So he
Mhm.
was like, "Well, how about you eat cereal for dinner?" So then people had this boycott from Kellogg's talking about, oh, he coming at my pocket. They were more offended about the money aspect, for him to even allude that, they don't have enough money, in their bank account for whatever. I'm like, forget, the money aspect. Kellogg, that's nothing but chemicals. That's what you should be offended about. Him pushing chemicals on you.
And that was the first manufacturer of cereal. Or should I say
Hmm.
cold cereal? Because people have been eating grits and oatmeal for ages and ages.
Right, right. Cold cereal. Yep.
Hmm. Well, you know what? You can't have pure Kellogg's cornflakes no more because corn is no longer pure.
No, oh no, no.
So, with that, dear sister, I just love talking to you. And I pray, Allah, that our listening audience was able to gain something from this particular broadcast. And again, I am so eternally grateful to Brother James, Brother Chad, and Sister Starla for having Closing the Gap Broadcasting Network for as a platform for us, the
Yes, ma'am.
believers, to discuss things that are concerning us that are in our community. And for me, it's nutrition and the health of our people. Too many of us are dying unnecessarily from
Yes.
things that are preventable. And with that, I like to leave you in the nation's greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Sister Shawntell, for being my guest. I'll see you next time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Mhm.